Hi, party people. Welcome back to the Reformed Party Girls podcast. It's Kay.
And I'm Ray, and this is a podcast where we share our journey from the wild nights out, drinking and late night adventures to a calmer, more mindful life in sobriety.
This week's topic, we're going to dive into mental health and the struggles with suicide and just kind of where our minds have been and our own mental health struggles and where we were when we were 20 and drinking and doing drugs and kind of where we're at now with that battle.
Yeah, listener discretion is advised. It might be triggering, so please listen with care.
Yeah, and we come from a place of no judgment and from our experience, and we want to be here to, share our stories and our struggles and, help anyone who's having a hard time too. There is helplines and help you can get, and, we care about you. I hope you're doing okay.
Yeah, totally. So, yeah, if you are struggling with suicide or mental health problems, please get help. And, yeah.
It's because it's a real thing, and honestly, it's something everyone struggles with. At least all the people I've met, and you know, it's it's an epidemic. It's a struggle, and I think it's definitely a part of life, a part of being human, and having emotion and being able to feel. Like I think.
Like you're alone and like no one understands.
Yeah.
But yeah, just know you're not alone and it's actually more common than you think.
It really is. So when I was 14, right, like my home life was always really hard, and mental health is something that runs in my family. My mom is bipolar, you know, OCD runs high, and I was diagnosed with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. And that stems from, traumatic childhood experiences that affect the development of your, you know, coping mechanisms and the way you handle things at an early age, and that, rewires your brain as an adult, and something that I learned I had and, work through dealing with all the time and every day. Um, yeah, the the first time I tried to kill myself, um, I don't remember it, but it's a story that my family has told me, and is why I know that it's happened. But the first time I was 5 years old.
What? Oh my
Yeah, so
gosh.
I was fighting with my mom, and I guess I grabbed a wire hanger out of the closet
Oh my god.
and I wrapped it around my neck.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
and I'm like screaming to my mom, like, I just want to die. I just want to die.
Oh, that's so crazy, especially for a
Yeah, I was
5-year-old.
really, really young. I don't know what it was about, but again, my life was very tumultuous. My mom was a teen mom who dealt with her own mental illness. She was a single mom. My dad was a drug dealer. So, like that environment I was in was just not the greatest. And yeah, I think, from a very early age, I just had a really rough go
Mm-hmm.
with, my mental health. But um, I I got really bad again when I was going through puberty,
Yeah.
and just again home life was really bad. Like I told you about when I moved in with my aunt and uncle,
Mm-hmm.
I struggled a lot with my mental health, and um, wanting to wanting to die, or being over the top and incredibly emotional, and I really had no control over my emotions. And so yeah, when I was 14, I got put on antidepressants and
Mm.
sleeping meds and all these things that I honestly don't think helped. I just think, the situation I was in and the cards I was dealt just made it really, really hard. I honestly think if anyone was in my position, they would struggle too. And I've worked really, really hard over the last couple of years to get like a really good handle on it. Here, I'm just gonna look up BPD here just to give you guys a little note on kind of what it is. So borderline personality disorder is a long-term mental illness that impacts a person's ability to manage emotions and impulses. It's characterized by intense, unstable emotions and relationships, insecurity, and self-doubt. BPD can make everything about a person feel unstable, including their moods, thinking, behavior, relationships, and sometimes identity. So, a big thing I used to describe the way I felt was I would feel something so intensely from my fingers to my toes, and I would have no way of getting it out. It felt like, my body was filling up, like a jar was filling up with water, and then it gets to the point where it just overflows.
Yeah.
And then with BPD, it happened so quickly and so intensely that, I could be having a full-on sad mental breakdown, screaming and crying.
Yeah.
And 10 minutes later, I could be happy, smiling, and laughing because it switches really, really quickly. But when I would get really sad or really angry, it would come out in really crazy ways. And one way to help kind of release that emotion I would self-harm.
Yeah.
It would be a way for me to get those emotions out, because it was almost painful, like feeling that intensely about something. And like my form of self-harm was actually like choking myself.
Wow.
And like hitting myself. I didn't do like cutting or anything, but sometimes I would get really intense and I would just try and choke myself out and pass out, so I would stop feeling.
Wow.
Yeah, or I would get really frustrated and I would start punching myself in the face, like in the head, really hard. That's what I would do, and I haven't done that in a very, very long time, but yeah.
Damn, that's rough.
Well, it's life.
Yeah.
And it's like it is a struggle. I've had a couple stints like at the hospital where I've tried to harm myself, and a really big thing that I took away like from every visit was being able to talk about it. And I'm really blessed with the family I have, even though we have our issues and all kind of deal with mental illness, is that we're all really good at talking about it with each other. And I was always able to, be open and honest with my family about it. And, it's been really helpful, just to talk. There was a time like it was bad and I actually got accepted into, a program, because BPD actually doesn't have a cure. There's not really like, bipolar and schizophrenia, like you can take medication to help control it. BPD doesn't really have a solution. The only like medically found kind of cure for it is actually group therapy and group talk.
Really?
Because it all stems from early childhood trauma. And the best way to deal with trauma and PTSD is talking about it and coming up with coping mechanisms and strategies, and being able to identify like when you're not feeling well. And that's been the biggest thing for me, is being able to identify like when I'm having a bad day and just recognizing, okay, what do I need from it, right? Like, do I need to just stay at home and relax and like enjoy myself, or do I need to go be distracted by friends or go and do something, right? So it's being able to recognize and control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's sad. Like, I feel like a lot of my life um, hasn't been wasted, but I feel like a lot of my life has been a fight to survive,
Yeah.
and just be okay, which is, been my entire life. And I feel like um, I would be in such a different place and maybe further along in my life if I didn't have all those struggles. But it's also made me who I am,
Yeah.
and I love who I am. And uh, I think anyone who knows me would say, that I lead with such passion,
Yeah.
right? Like, I am a passionate person and I get excited and I have this really big energy when I walk into a room. But it also comes with the complete downside. I find I'm like two ends of a spectrum, and when it comes to my emotions, there is no middle ground,
Yeah.
right? And that's just who I am, and I've had to learn to like accept and love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any other stints after that when you were 14, or that was the last time?
No, like my entire life, Raylene. Yeah. Right? Like when I was 14, it was just kind of when it was bad. That's when I was like not living with my mom a lot and dealing with like school and emotion. But it got really bad when I was working at the mental health place where the schizophrenics and bipolars were. I went on, right, med leave. Again, my drinking and my partying was high, but so was my mental health. And that's when I had a little bit of time at the hospital. And then when I dated Marty at the punk house, I tried to kill myself twice.
What? Really?
Yeah, remember when I slipped my arm open?
Oh my god, yes! Holy fuck,
I still have the scar,
I
yeah.
fucking forgot about that.
Yeah, so, right, like it was a party house, and I think that's why I have such a good control of my mental health now, is because I'm not drinking and doing drugs to kind of, cover all the things, all my demons I was hiding from.
Yeah.
But yeah, right, we were just like one night, lack of sleep, me and him were fighting, and I ran upstairs into the bathroom and I grabbed one of his razors and I sliced my arm open.
Oh my god, yeah, I totally forgot about that.
And then near the end, like this wasn't, this one I don't know, like I was trying to kill myself, but we were fighting again and I grabbed like a bunch of pill bottles and I just like chugged them all.
Oh my god.
I think a bunch of my antidepressants and my sleeping pills, and
What did that do to you?
nothing really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't really do much. I think I went to the hospital and made me throw it all up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I remember that time too, and I told him I didn't. He wouldn't drive me to the hospital. I had to take an Uber.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a dick. What a fucking dick.
It was. But yeah, it's been good. Like I haven't had times where I've needed to go back to the hospital, because I think I've just gotten a good handle and understanding of it. Obviously, it got really bad when I was with Oakland, but I never thought about killing myself. I haven't thought about suicide in probably since my relationship with Marty.
Yeah.
But the one thing I do and always have struggled with, especially because I've dealt with so much hardship and so much struggle in my life, especially since I was a little kid, is, right, like I've seen someone get murdered,
Yeah.
shitty things have happened with my job, stuff has gone on with my mom, I used to think that all this bad stuff would happen to me because it was God punishing me,
Oh, yeah.
because I was actually a really bad, horrible, shitty person. That's where like the self-doubt and insecurity and like false sense of who I am comes in with the BPD. Is I used to think that I was deserving of everything that happened in my life, and that it happened to me because I was being punished because I was a terrible person.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I used to, like, my mom abandoning my family, like that's God's way of punishing me because I'm a bad person, right? I never had a dad in my life, that's that was me being punished because I'm horrible. So anytime something bad would happen to me, I used to really think I was deserving of it.
Wow.
And I've really had to like shift my mindset.
Yes, I hope you don't feel like that anymore.
No.
Okay, that's good.
No. So and I have to remind myself, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not that person.
You're not. No.
Have you ever had like a lot of self-doubt in like who you are? And
Oh, totally. Like, especially like all through your teenage years and
Yeah, being
early
a
20s.
teenager's
And like,
hard.
it's funny you bring up the age of 14 because same with me. Like, I think when you're 14, like you said, like you hit puberty and like you also don't know how to process your emotions, right? And you're going through all this hormonal
You're
shit.
changing, your body's changing,
Yeah,
your
and, like,
world's changing.
You're in that like limbo between a preteen and a teenager. You just
Yeah.
became a teenager. And with me, I was 14. That's when I first had my first real boyfriend. That's the guy I lost my virginity
Yeah.
to. And I remember we got in this huge fight. I don't remember what it was about. And I remember I was like on a 3-way call with my cousin and my friend at the time, and like telling them about it and
Yeah.
sad and whatnot. Plus we're laughing about shit. And I told them like, oh, I'm just gonna take this whole bottle of sleeping pills, and like they didn't believe me. Like they were like laughing at me about it. And I took the whole bottle of
Where
sleeping
did you
pills.
get the pills from?
In the cupboard upstairs, like in our kitchen. Like it was my mom's sleeping pills that she just left there, and I took the whole bottle. I remember I slept for 2 days. I don't really remember much of it.
Yeah.
Like I can't even remember much what happened after that, but I remember that's when I actually started self-harming myself. I was a cutter.
Yeah.
I would cut my wrist, but also like I did it for attention.
Yeah.
Like
You just wanted to be seen.
Yes, like I remember I'd go to school, like those wrist sweatbands you used to
Yeah.
wear. I would like wear it over my cuts, but like sometimes I'll pretend to let it slip so my
Someone
cuts
see.
would show. And I remember even like this is when I first started driving, so like my mom had to drive around with me everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember she seen it once. She's like, "What's that on your arm?" And like I just came up with like a quick lie on the fly saying, "Oh, I was reaching into my locker and there was a screw sticking out and it cut my wrist." And like she never questioned me anymore about it. But like when I was 14, like I was such a bad kid, like
Like a rebel and wanted to fight with everyone.
yes, and like I'd always sneak out, like go drinking, partying, and this was when, like, 'cause I have an older half sister who's 11 years older than me. She was a teen mom as well. She had 3 kids, and she just up and left one day. Like she took them to my cook'em's place
Yeah.
and said, "Oh, like I'll be right back," and she never came back. So my mom took them in. They lived with us for 6 months.
Yeah.
And they were not disciplined. One was 1 was 3, the other one was, I don't know, like under 8. So they're all under 10.
Yep.
Wild kids.
Need
like,
all this attention on them.
yeah, all my mom's attention was on these kids. So like the rest of the family was being ignored. My dad was being ignored. I remember there was a point, like I thought they were gonna get a divorce.
Yeah.
And like of course, so all the attention's on these kids. So like I just snuck out all the time. I was always talking back. Like I was such a fucking little shit. Like
when you're just like, "Mom, like I'm right here."
yeah. So yeah, I took that whole bottle of sleeping pills, slept for 2 days. I don't
Did
remember.
anyone find you or?
Like my mom did, like, cause she would have came to wake me up for school the next day, and
Yeah.
I remember like trying to wake up, and cause like my room was in the basement, I remember like trying to get up, get ready, and like I couldn't even walk up the stairs,
Yeah.
and like I remember her saying, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" And like I don't remember anything after that. I don't know if I went to
Well,
the
of
hospital. I don't
course.
know what happened.
Yeah.
And then what's another? I guess more recently, I guess 2017. When my mom passed, so I was
That was
living.
a hard time.
Oh my god, the worst. Like, you never think that'll happen to you, right? You never think,
No,
oh, my mom will die, or especially have
no.
cancer and whatnot.
Yeah,
So
and the whole situation was a lot, and it happened like
yeah,
fast.
it was fucked. Like, so I was living with two other roommates. We had a little bungalow in Edmonton, and we're all from the same hometown. So when my mom passed, we're all in my hometown. And as we're like making arrangements for my mom's funeral and whatnot, I was like, well, I gotta come back to Edmonton to grab more clothes.
Yeah,
So I drive back to Edmonton, and as soon as I walk into our house, I hear this beeping noise. I'm like, what the fuck? So I go into the basement, which my room was in the basement, go into the furnace room, and it's the carbon monoxide detector going
yeah,
off. And I was like, so I read it to see what it was saying. It said, oh, 3 beeps in a row means like get out of the house, call
yeah.
911, blah, blah, blah. And what I did, because I was so, like, this was like a week after my mom died. I just went
And
to
you're
my
by
room. By
yourself?
myself, yeah, my roommates were gone. I didn't have my dog with me, it was just me. I seen what it meant, and I even, like, started feeling, like, sleepy.
Yeah, because
So,
carbon monoxide will, like, you just fall asleep.
yeah, so, like, what I did, I was like, I was hurting so bad, I just went to my room. I went to lay down, and I was like, I'm just gonna go to sleep and never wake up.
Yeah.
But as I was laying there and like feeling sleepy and tired and like, yeah, this is how I'm gonna go, I couldn't stop thinking of my dad and my sister. I'm like, I can't do
Yeah.
this to them. Like, we just lost my mom. I
Do
can't
it.
kill
Yeah.
myself and have them lose me as well.
Yeah.
So I got up, I went outside, called 911. Yeah, fire trucks came with like 5 real hot
It would
firefighters.
have taken you.
Yeah, and like they came in, they like brought their detectors. They're like, yeah, there's like carbon monoxide in there, and I guess our furnace was leaking.
Wow.
So yeah, we had to get someone to fix that. We had to open all the windows,
Did you
doors, and
feel your
everything.
mom at all there that day with you?
No, I was so hurt. Like,
Yeah.
I was so ready to die. Like, I was in so much pain. I just didn't want to feel that pain anymore.
Right. It's a
But yeah, just that
lot.
thought of I can't do this to my dad and my sister. I
No.
can't do that to them. So yeah,
Oh,
that
does
was, and I remember I told my dad this a little
yeah,
while after, and he just started like tearing up,
crying.
and
It's a
it's
lot.
rough. Like, it's fucked up what your mind will go through, especially when you're in so much pain.
It's that pain and just feeling like there's no other escape and no way out, right?
Yeah,
Like, and that's how I felt every time. It's just like in that moment what you were feeling just was so intense and so hard to deal with, and it almost felt like there was no other way out,
yeah,
right? Because what I've learned is, time heals everything.
yes, it does.
um, right? And yeah, you may hurt and hurt and hurt, but after enough time, it gets better. And it's that period where you are still hurting that you almost feel like it'll never end and
Yeah,
that you can't get out of it. But, I've learned as I got older, with time, uh, everything gets better and it gets easier to live with. But in that moment, it's really hard to see that. Um,
and I see what suicide does to a family, because just as little as last year, my brother-in-law, his mom committed suicide.
uh,
And I guess that wasn't the first time she tried. And I guess this last time that took her, she hung herself in her bedroom while her husband and her son were just outside the
no.
door. And I guess like she even like, I don't know if she was FaceTiming herself with her husband while she did it.
Oh
And
my
like they were trying to
gosh.
break down the door, but it was too late. And it's like to see the aftermath of that, what it does to a family,
Yeah.
and like what it did to my sister. Like, that's her
Yeah.
mother-in-law, and like my sister has 2 young kids. They're never going to see their grandma again.
Yeah.
And like, it's just wild. And they knew she struggled with mental health and suicide for a very long time, but she refused to get help.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do in that situation as well?
Yeah.
But it's like to see, because I've never really been a part of like having someone I know commit suicide and see the aftermath of that until that happened. And it's so sad. And
It is sad.
to see, I could have been that person who like tore
Did
my family
that.
apart even further.
Do you remember when my mom attempted suicide?
Briefly,
Yeah.
want to talk about it?
Yeah, so um, I had just gotten fired from my pub job. Um, it was just a week before my birthday. Um, it was 2019 it happened. So I just started two new jobs. I was working at the new bar that I was at for 6 years, and I just started the job at the music venue. So I was working at the music venue from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., and then doing training at the other bar starting at 8 a.m. to noon. So my schedule was like full, full, full. And I got a call one day from my auntie letting me know that my mom was in the hospital because she had attempted suicide. So my grandma was an opioid addict who was prescribed them through her doctor in the 80s, which was very common. But she grew up. We grew up around it, and she was on OxyContin and fentanyl. And through that time, my mom was actually addicted to those drugs as well. So my entire life, my mom was a drug addict, and my mom had a constant supply from my grandma's prescription medication. And my mom, at the time, I guess it was getting so bad that she had been taking so much of my grandma's medication that my grandma was going to find out that my mom had been stealing it. And my mom was living with all the shame and guilt because she'd been hiding her addiction from the entire family. Well, at that age, I would have been about 22, 23. So really, for the last 23 years, my mom has been hiding this addiction and her addiction. And so what she did is she took all the pills that she had of my grandma's, and she took them all. So I think she took about 10 80 milligram pills of Oxycontin, and then a bunch of fentanyl and muscle relaxants, and went and laid down in my grandma's bed. So kind of like what you were saying about your friend, like my mom did it with the house full of my family.
Wow.
So my grandma and my grandpa were there. My sister was there, and my brother was there as well.
Wow.
And she fell asleep, and they couldn't wake her up. And I think they let her sleep for a day, and then the next day they couldn't get her up, so they called 911.
Holy shit.
And she went to the hospital, and she had put herself into a coma.
Wow.
So when I went in, saw my mom, she was awake, but she was completely out of it. She had like no sense of herself or reality. And seeing my mom in that state was really, really hard. So again, I was working my two jobs. So when I would finish my job at 2 a.m., I would take the bus to the Grey Nuns Hospital where she was staying. And they had strapped her down because she would get up and wander. So my mom was strapped her legs to the bed and her arms to the bed. So she couldn't move, and she wouldn't make any sense whatsoever. And I would go and just lay in the bed with her to help calm her down and help relax her. And then eventually, about 5 days later, she came out of it. And I was there with her when it happened. And, all of a sudden she said my name. And then she just started crying because she, I think it's hard because when you attempt suicide, I don't think you ever see yourself not succeeding.
Yeah.
And so when my mom woke up, I think what happened is she now had all the guilt of having to face her family after trying to take her life. And she had written me and my sister suicide notes on her laptop that we had found. And when she was there, like recovering, like I watched my mom have a couple seizures and stuff while the medication was leaving her body. And then she was at the Grey Nuns, I think, for about 2 months.
Holy shit.
There, they have like a mental health wing where people can kind of live while they get help and get better. And when my mom came out of the hospital, I was really proud of her and I thought she was gonna, change her life and get better. Um, Sorry, side note, I'll go back to this. Me and my mom had like a really good conversation, and actually, like, what happened in this experience for me is I had I had so much guilt and resentment, and it's why me and my mom fought so much when I was younger, is because I resented her for the life that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I blamed her for, all the things that went wrong in our life. And in that moment when she's in the hospital after attempting suicide and almost succeeding, is I finally got to see my mom as a human being and as a
Mm.
person just like me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you forget that your parents, this is their first time on this planet as well,
Yeah.
and that they go through exactly the same things that we do. And it made me realize, I would put my mom on this pedestal and I had so much resentment and anger towards her, that it all kind of went away because I just realized that she's doing this just like I am.
Yeah.
And we had a really good talk because, um, I started crying and I said to her, I said, I'm sorry I ruined your life. My
Mm.
mom got pregnant with me when she was 15.
Wow.
And I've always felt like if my mom never had me, maybe her life wouldn't have been the way it was, and it wouldn't have been so hard if she didn't have to raise me,
Mm-hmm.
and that I changed her life. And I said that to her, and she looked at me and she started crying and she said, "You know what, Kaylee, you actually saved my life because
Yeah.
I was a runaway living on the streets. And if I didn't have you, I would probably already be dead by now."
Wow.
So we had that moment. It was really good, and I really thought my mom was going to come out of it and change. And I thought it was going to be a really good healing and bonding moment for our family to kind of address, you know, the drug addiction and the mental health issues that we were all facing together.
Yeah.
And, kind of be like the reverse of it because, the universe or God or whoever gave my mom a second chance and gave
Yeah.
our family a second chance to, work on it. And unfortunately, that wasn't the case. My mom actually left the hospital, and I think that person that came back after that drug overdose and after her suicide attempt wasn't my mom anymore.
Mm.
The person that came out of that hospital is a woman I don't recognize.
Yeah.
And so, slowly it did change and affect my family because, I've had like a long grieve of my mom.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2019 and it's 2025. And, um, uh, I don't have my mom in my life. My mom turned to drugs and actually became more of a drug addict, so much so that she doesn't talk to anyone in the family, and she abandoned my younger brother who is 13. Um, and it's been hard because my mom still is alive and still exists,
Mm-hmm.
but my mom and the woman I knew who raised me died a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so that's been really tricky, but
Mm-hmm.
um, it it's it's crazy the effects that has, and like you said, the lasting effects that it does to a family.
Yeah.
And it's not something people talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They really try and hide and shelter
Yeah.
all of those things.
Yeah.
Mental health is real.
It is, and
And
don't be afraid to talk about that kind of stuff.
yeah, and I wonder how do you go about that? How do you go about asking someone for help, or even
Yeah.
as an adult or a parent, like how do you let your children know that you're struggling,
Yeah.
your loved ones? How do you go to your parent and let them know you're struggling too, right?
Yeah. It's tough,
It's so tough. Yeah.
but you can do it, right? Like,
Yeah. What do you think has been like, the reason why you don't feel that way anymore, or kind of, why you haven't slipped into kind of that feeling of wanting to die.
My family, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah,
Yeah.
just like I can't do that to them.
Yeah.
Like I just can't. I just think about what would happen when I'm gone, and like I know that would just tear them apart.
Yeah.
Like, cause my mom was the glue to our family. So
Yeah.
when she died, like everything just fell apart. Like I just felt like the world ended. Like I just, oh yeah, I've learned to manage and deal with death better as I get older,
Yeah.
and plus my mental health is way better than what it used to be. And
It's like a
now,
strong mind, right?
yes, and
Yeah.
now also seeing what suicide does to a family, like I could never do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think me too. I think one, like wanting to live and like wanting to be here
Yes.
on this planet, and wanting to be Kaylee, any version in any way I am, because I know I'm not perfect, and like understanding that that's okay. Understanding that like bad days when you're not feeling the strongest are also okay,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that you're like entitled and your emotions are valid,
Yeah.
and you're allowed to feel that way. You're allowed to feel sad, and you're allowed to feel angry, and
Yes.
you
Feel your
know
emotions.
feel them out. It's great to have a good cry, and you know that it is worth it.
Yeah, there's so
um,
much life to live,
there is.
right?
Yeah, even if that's like being boring and old and
Yeah.
enjoying enjoying your home life, right? Um,
Yes.
but uh, growing up has been great, and um, it's nice not to have to like struggle with that.
Yes.
Have a good grasp on everything.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah, and if you feel like you need some help or you need to talk about it, like I really, really want to strongly point you in the direction of, doing that. Talk to your friends, talk to your family.
Yeah, or even go see a therapist.
Yeah,
Like, talk to whoever you need to talk to, and don't feel ashamed about it,
yeah,
because you're worth it. You deserve it, and you deserve to live life.
you sure do. Well, I hope you enjoyed this one. Love
Take
you
care. We
guys.
love you.
Bye.
Bye.